Hey, I'm Steve, also known as TerraMantis, and in this video, from infinite supers and never-ending ammo to insane builds in PvP and PvE, we're going to discuss 5 of the most powerful builds in Destiny 2. Now, when choosing this list, I looked at several different aspects to gauge the power and usefulness of each of these builds. The first being versatility, meaning how well does the build perform in both PvP as well as PvE. Next is how limited the build is. In other words, is the build tied down to a specific subclass or a very specific piece of gear? And last is the overall performance of the gear at hand. And by that I mean taking into consideration how powerful the equipment is when compared to Destiny 2 in its current state. And before we jump into it, it should be stated that this video is based entirely on vanilla Destiny 2, including up to the Leviathan raid but excluding the prestige mode. So this does not include any weapons, armor, hotfixes, nerfs, buffs, additional subclasses, or anything of the sort that might be added later down the line. Alright guys, let's get started. The first powerful build is the risky Peacekeeper for the Titan. The primary gear being showcased with this build is the Peacekeeper exotic leggings and the Risk Runner submachine gun. With the submachine gun, after taking arc damage, the Risk Runner maintains a period of time in which it will generate chain lightning effect when shooting enemies, as well as pull ammo from your reserves, in essence allowing you to fire your submachine gun nearly indefinitely with a great area effect capabilities. This is of course complemented by your other exotic, the Peacekeepers. When the infinite ammo perk is not triggered from the Risk Runner, Peacekeepers will pick up the slack by readying submachine guns almost instantly, and when the submachine gun is stowed, the clip is automatically reloaded. In other words, if you have a submachine gun in both your kinetic slot as well as your elemental slot, you can empty the clip of one gun, swap to the other, empty its clip as well, and then switch back to your previous gun, which will then be fully reloaded, creating a style of gameplay with almost no downtime or break in DPS. Now, obviously, since this build requires 2 submachine guns to optimize, as the name would suggest, it's extremely risky in many situations, but complements a high-risk, high-reward mentality. This is due to the fact that submachine guns are really only effective from short to barely medium range, but up close they will shred enemies in PvP and PvE. In PvP, anyone with mid to long range is going to chew you apart though, with an auto rifle or a scout rifle before you can close the gap to make use of those double machine guns. This build is definitely stronger in PvE situations than it is in PvP, especially if you're fighting a large amount of enemies that do arc damage to take advantage of the Risk Runner. Now last but not least, even if the risky Peacekeeper is limited and very situational in practice, I have to give this build a few extra points just based on the fact that it's not limiting by subclass at all. No matter if it's Sentinel, Striker, or Sunbreaker, you can run whatever subclass you prefer most. Alright, there really isn't much to the next build. Honestly, it's only making the list because of the utility and strength it brings to an entire raid group. And that build is the Endless Empowering Rift for the Warlock. This build primarily revolves around the exotic chest piece STARFIRE protocol, which grants an additional fusion grenade charge. More importantly, when you score a kill with that fusion grenade, it will pretty much recharge your rift. Now, since Destiny revolves so heavily around adds for basically every boss encounter, this build is invaluable for adding a lot of damage to you and your fire team, particularly with the Calus encounter. During the damage phase of the Calus fight, with this build you're capable of maintaining the empowering rift at every damage pillar. All you need to do is stick one fusion grenade to a Cabal Warhound between each plate to recharge your empowering rift, giving your entire team more damage at every single pillar. Now, this build doesn't land very high on the list because it's not only very situational, it's not very viable in PvP either. That said, in the right situation, it's very powerful to continually buff your other teammates with increased damage. The next build, the Orpheus Void Trapper, is for the Hunter. Much like the previous build, the Orpheus Void Trapper relies heavily on a single piece of exotic gear, the Orpheus Rig leggings. The Orpheus rigs, in theory, can keep your super maintained indefinitely while also creating enough orbs for your teammates for unlimited super use as well. It should be noted, however, that it's very important to use the Trapper section of the Hunter skill tree. The Pathfinder's triple arrow does not work properly with the Orpheus rigs. This is because with the Orpheus rigs, the more enemies that are tethered, the more super energy is refilled instantly after shooting your void arrow. And when using the Pathfinder, instead of each tether giving you chunks of your super back, It's draining the duration to shoot all 3 void arrows. That said, when using Way of the Trapper, I've come to find that each enemy tethered is worth roughly 10% towards refilling the next super. In other words, if you tether 10 enemies, bam, your super is refilled, all while creating a ton of orbs in the process for your teammates. No other build or class in Destiny 2 has the capability to maintain such an unlimited string of supers for not only themselves, but also their teammates as well, creating an extremely powerful group with a single subclass and exotic. Now this build's biggest shortcomings is PvP, however. Tether feels very weak in PvP right now, and by that I mean relatively speaking. When compared to almost every other super in Destiny 2, Hunter, Warlock, and Titan included, the Tether is basically the only super not guaranteeing several kills during its activation. Beyond this, Orpheus rigs are basically useless in PvP. With a maximum of 4 people in PvP matches currently, and Orpheus rigs requiring 10 tethered enemies to refill your super, you'd have to tether the entire team 2.5 times to make the exotic leggings operate as effectively as they do in PvE. There are many better options for the Hunter in PvP than the Orpheus rigs, but in PvE on the other hand, I don't think any single character can benefit the entirety of your party as much as an Orpheus Void Trapper. The next one has less to do with exotic gear and instead focuses more on a single subclass of the Warlock, the Devouring Voidwalker. With this build, you're capable of eating your grenade energy or performing a melee kill on an enemy to enter a state of Devour for 9 seconds. You then have to kill an enemy during that time. When an enemy is killed while Devour is active, it will refresh the duration of Devour back to 9 seconds, as well as completely refill your health. This is very powerful in PvP and PvE. This ability to fully recover your health with every kill creates situations of extreme survivability, allowing you to hop from one enemy to the next with full health at the start of every new engagement. For PvE, one of my favorite combinations with this build is the Rat King Sidearm exotic. After every kill I reload, thus refilling my health from the kill and further cementing my safety by being invisible while tracking down the next target. Additionally, as far as armor is concerned, I prefer to use the exotic helm NEZAREC'S Sin. This is because with NEZAREC'S Sin, every void kill will activate ABYSSAL extractors, which increases the recharge rate of your abilities. It's also important to note that this is void kills, not void abilities, meaning anything that does void damage, even weapons in addition to skills, will increase the recharge rate of your ability cooldowns. That means more grenades and more melee more often to enter the Devour state if needed. I found that with NEZAREC'S Sin and a Void Auto Rifle, my grenade was recharged in 3 to 4 enemy kills while maintaining the ABYSSAL Extractors perk. In other words, Devour almost never deactivates. Now, obviously in PvP, the ability to completely refill your health with every kill is very powerful as well. So this is a very well-rounded build, and it's not limited to the weaponry you use. Just the element of the weapons is important, and that element should be Void. Besides that, obviously the biggest restriction is that you absolutely must play as a Voidwalker. The last one is for the Titan, the Walking War Rig. The primary exotic this build revolves around is the Octium War Rig chest piece. This exotic feeds ammo from your reserves to the clip of any auto rifle. It feeds 10% of the magazine every second. In other words, if a gun's magazine houses 30 rounds, you receive 3 rounds every second. 40 rounds is 4, and so on. This mechanic pairs extremely well with the kinetic exotic auto rifle sweep business because of its 100 round magazine, giving it a massive 10 additional rounds every second and making for a gun that can maintain steady damage for quite some time. This of course will chew through your ammo, but nevertheless it'll also chew through enemies. It's one of the, if not the best ways to do damage to a boss enemy in Destiny 2. Now jumping to the PvP side of things, I think Sweet Business is not that good of a gun. There are a bunch of better options out there. Luckily then that this build is very versatile and works well with any auto rifle. Personally, I think Origin Story and Uriel's Gift are 2 of the best guns in Destiny right now regardless of the Actium War Rig. The War Rig just makes them that much better. So that's about it. I had to give the Actium War Rig for the Titan the top spot for several reasons. For one, it's extremely versatile. Unlike something like the Orpheus rigs, it's just as valid in PvP as it is in PvE. Additionally, the build works the exact same with any subclass for the Titan. making it not limited whatsoever and allowing you to play whatever spec is your favorite. I personally tend to prefer to play the striker with double pulse grenades. Those things are overpowered as hell right now. And last but not least, I think auto rifles are among the top tier, if not the best all-around archetype of guns in Destiny 2 in its current state. Alright guys, that's about it for 5 of the most powerful builds in Destiny 2. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please hit the like button. It goes a long way with the success and searchability of videos. It helped me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Besides that, leave some feedback. Tell me about your favorite builds in PvP and PvE and why. I know some really great builds and gear were left out of this video because I was trying to focus primarily on well-rounded builds in conjunction with what's powerful in Destiny 2 in its current state. Now before we go though, I want to remind everyone about the Destiny Community Countdown, which will premiere on this channel in the near future. For the Community Countdown video, this upcoming week's topic is unique team builds. So grab at least one other person and show me some interesting video in PvP or PvE. Take to the Trials of 9 with 4 Titans all using bubbles, or try to kill a boss only using Winter's Guile on Warlocks. To whatever you can think up of. The idea doesn't necessarily have to pan out, it just has to be interesting or unique. I've already gotten some submissions, but more are always welcome. Be sure to check out the description of this video for details on how to submit your entries for the countdown. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.